I'm Nate Edgerly, and you're watching Influencing Entrepreneurs.
After years of teaching entrepreneurship and consulting business owners, I realized that true knowledge comes from the wins and losses of those entrepreneurs. These are the stories of those business leaders. I'm Casimir Ward, and this is Influencing Entrepreneurs. Well, today joining us is Nate Edgerly. Thanks for joining us today.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
As we start all of our conversations, while we talk about all things entrepreneurship, where did your entrepreneurial journey begin?
I think it comes to everybody in different ways, for sure. I started my career as a musician, and during and after college, I tried to make it in music. And at the time, it was when streaming services were just starting to become a thing. People were, downloading tons of music from the internet and from different sources, and some of it was pirated, whatever. It was kind of a free for all.
It was the wild, wild west of digital music. Yeah.
Yeah, it was exactly. And it was really unstructured, and it was really hard to figure out, how do you make money in music anymore? There had been profound disruption in the industry. And I was not very business savvy at all. And, I was just booking gigs as best I could for our band. So for about 2 years there, I was trying to essentially launch a business around, being an artist. And it was really challenging. And I realized that I couldn't quite figure out how to make it work. And luck was such a huge part of the equation. I pivoted because, like most people, I met someone that I really, really liked, and I wanted to have like a legitimate job and health insurance and stuff like that. So I went back and got a master's degree in accounting.
Oh, wow. And they say all the rock stars end up there,
Yeah, it was a very strange. It was, when I say pivot, I mean it was 180 degrees.
But let's talk about real quick we're talking about entrepreneurial journeys, but being a musician in and of itself it really is the startup business, right? So first I got to ask, what kind of music are we talking? Ska? Are we talking hip hop? What kind? And actually, most importantly, hit me first with the band name, and then I will try to predict what genre.
Perfect. Yeah. So we were called the Shotgun Preachers.
The Shotgun Preachers. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I'm imagining late 80s, early 2000s.
Yeah, early
or late 90s. I'm sorry, early 2000s.
That's right.
Yeah. All right. So ska's run its course. I'm feeling it's just general pop rock. Am I in the ballpark?
Close. So I actually had a background songwriting and playing with blues, and there was in punk rock. I was very into punk rock, so it was sort of a fusion of blues and punk rock, and heavily influenced by bands like the Stooges and the MC5 and kind of the Detroit 70s punk, American punk, kind of movement.
Like that blue collar punk wave that was a little bit different than the New York scene at the same time.
Yeah, exactly. And so, it was loud. It was loud. In hindsight, my ears are still ringing. It was, I can reflect on it, and I could see how it was hard to build an audience for that particular offering. That's the interesting thing about art versus kind of business and entrepreneurship. So I was building a business around art, but you got to have product market fit.
You got to identify your audience. You've got to figure out, what they want. Like, I love entertainment things because people are like, oh, if you go into entertainment, you're a dime a dozen and you'll never do it. They're like, go start your own business. It's like, it's the same exercises. It's the same steps to get there, So how far, and it was the Shotgun Preachers, right?
Mm-hmm.
How far do the Shotgun Preachers go?
Regional. just regional. We never, and it was, uh, it was very difficult to figure out distribution,
Mhm.
in that market at that time. Like, how do you get your music heard?
Yeah.
Live gigging was sort of the muscle memory of music. I mean, it was just like book gigs, book
Yeah.
gigs, book gigs, word of mouth, stuff like that. And it was, now there's a whole industry around, you know, the social media of music, right? And
Right.
how you can market effectively and reach, an audience that way. That didn't exist at that time. It was,
Actually, it was right there. It was just in its infancy. It's one of those things you kind of,
yeah, it was like YouTube. Yeah.
yeah,
A lot of musicians were fighting over rights, and was the big debate. It's like, how do you get publishing rights to your own music?
yeah.
If, so
Well, and that was at a point where you did gigs, so you got a record deal, so you got some money, so you could do that. And then even before YouTube, though, with MySpace, like there were artists that were like, we're just going to put it out there, and then people will eventually want to see us. And it's like, like just hearing your story, I'm like, ooh, if you could have held on 3 more years, and also knew what was going to happen over the next 20, you would have been well primed. But we don't realize how big that was until looking at it 20 years ago.
yeah, totally. I
So we were talking about the delivery system and how the distribution was changing. Kind of so you make this huge pivot. I got to be honest. How do you break the news to your band?
well, it was funny. About that time, we were all tired. We were all like, we got to figure out the health insurance equation. We got to figure out, you know, how we're going to make a meaningful living. I mean, we were working day jobs, um, and it was a group of people who were very kind of high talent, people in a lot of respects. And, uh, a couple of them, were like, we're going to go back to grad school, and, it's time to do that sort of thing. And, um, it was a natural transition as we kind of matured. And because we were young and dumb, and, we, it was, it was an adventure, with late nights, and, playing in bars and music houses and stuff like that. I mean,
Yeah,
it was exhausting.
yeah.
Um,
A fun but exhausting lifestyle.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's a great chapter, and like, I still love music, and I still have a passion for that, and I study it, the industry, and I'm trying to instill in my kids a similar love for music, and I hope they explore their creative,
Yeah.
uh, aptitudes down the line. But yeah,
So you move into your master's of accountancy. Where does that take you next?
PricewaterhouseCoopers for 8 years, working on. So part of my motivation is that I started to flirt with business when I
Mhm.
was, running the band. And, it was also the time of the dot-com boom. And I was watching stocks, and everybody was crazy about stocks. It was, a huge bubble. But I wanted to understand this phenomenon. I was like, wow, a lot of people are getting really rich with these dot-com companies. Like, maybe I can learn about this, and I can understand, better what how to make money through something like that. And, and so I started reading, and I got really into Warren Buffett.
Mhm.
And a lot of what Warren Buffett talked about was kind of business fundamentals, and he emphasized the importance of finance and accounting. And I was like, okay, I clearly need to understand debits, credits, balance sheets, income statements, things like that, if I'm going to have a chance at, any success and so I said, I'll go back to school and I'll study hard in this. And, as I I went through that process, I really got into taxation, and that appealed to me. It was very technical. It was kind of heady and married philosophy um, and kind of quantitative science. And so when I transitioned to PwC, I worked on the tax side doing specifically M&A and transactional work. And a lot of my clients at the time were private equity firms and venture capital firms and hedge funds.
So what does present itself that starts getting traction for you all? That kind of that starts getting momentum behind all the work you're doing. So
Yeah, yeah. So because we were a hybrid, we were working in public markets and private markets simultaneously. And our analytical prowess on the public market side and the perspective that it gave us about what was happening in the capital markets and the trends in these businesses really prepared us for what we would encounter on the private side. When we would approach people or they would approach us, we just had a perspective and you know, a essentially a latent thesis about what
Mhm.
worked and what didn't.
Yeah.
And so, luck favors the prepared, basically. And we were kind of structurally prepared for private market opportunities.
Right.
What we were lacking, and we didn't realize it at the time, was operational and real, like the guts of business,
Yeah.
experience, right? We were all well educated and arrogant, but we didn't realize what really mattered in a business
Yeah.
in terms
It's
of
kind of like knowing how the car works, but not knowing how to fix an engine or install it.
exactly. So most of our early successes were really kind of macroeconomic successes. They weren't idiosyncratic successes because we didn't have the insight to say, how do we scale this specific business? It was more, are we trend right? And we were very effective at identifying the right trends, and we capitalized on that. And
So what do you start capitalizing on that you start seeing success there?
well, so for example, we had a particular emphasis on food and beverage and hospitality, and we were investing kind of at the cutting edge of what's today called the fast casual
Mhm.
uh, model of restaurants, which blends um, aspects of casual dining and QSR dining. So it's quick service, relatively quick service, but a higher quality meal,
Right.
hopefully with lower labor costs. And so this business model had really evolved um, over about 7 years with companies like Panera and Chipotle. They were sort of the two, right at the vanguard of this particular business model. And so what we identified was this model could be applied to a lot of different culinary paradigms.
Yeah.
Everything from Mediterranean to lunch salad offerings, et cetera, et cetera. So we essentially became specialists in fast casual, and we networked and did business development in that community to get to know those businesses. And then we actually connected with a great group of people at a company called Chopped Creative Salad Company. So we kind of became experts in this particular domain, and we acquired some businesses, Chopped Creative Salad Company probably being the most notable. And it grew during our ownership, and it just became, that business model became more and more popular. It was just very trend right. And that was really my first exposure to operations and the other aspects of being deep in a business. And it was a credit to the people in that organization. I am very fond of them. I think that, they were very open. They were very inviting. I mean, they took me, I didn't know what I didn't know. And they took me into the business and kind of taught me, the things that they thought really mattered and drove results for the company. That was a huge learning experience for me. I mean, I devoured that and learned a ton from those people.
Mhm.
in that business.
What is the aha moment in your career that is that where it takes shape?
Absolutely. I mean, there's a very clear moment in my
Mhm.
career where it was a light switch just flipped for me. And that was uh, the private equity fund that we had morphed and merged with a large investor that we had. And I took over finance and operations
Right.
at the larger, at a larger holding company.
Right.
And one of the businesses that holding company had acquired hit the ditch with no skid marks. I mean, it was a bad, bad situation. The company was losing millions of dollars. It was a talent drain taking place. It was a beverage company based in Eastern North Carolina. Kind of a sleepy business serving customers like Walmart, Target, Food Lion, stuff like that, with kind of gallon beverages. I mean, it was a very commodity type business, and not sexy at all.
Yeah.
And I was the chairman of the board of that business, and I had been involved in the acquisition of it, and we determined that it was necessary to make a change in leadership, which was very difficult. We labored over that decision for a long time. And then I stepped in as the interim CEO of that company. And that was the experience that changed my whole outlook on everything.
Just having the position, or was there a scenario or situation you were in? Like, was it that the building was on fire? Was it,
Oh, it
that,
was. Yeah. I mean, it was bad. I mean, I could tell you stories of and this was a large business with a large top line,
Mhm.
but it was a small business, like 130 employees.
Yeah.
But I didn't know anything about the industry.
Mhm.
Really, I knew enough to have an investment thesis, but I didn't know enough about the industry to be an operator in that company. And I was fortunate in that I had a really good partner in operations who's an outstanding, talented individual, a guy named Dan Nifong. He's just a brilliant young leader. Um, and so I went into the business, and he educated me about, what was going on. I spent a lot of time. We ran 3 shifts. I was basically at the plant in the middle of the night talking with people. And what I realized in that process is that it's not about me. Like, I mean, everybody thinks what's the pinnacle of corporate hierarchy? Well, it's the chief executive officer. It's like, once you've got that title, like, you've arrived.
Right.
And I had that experience, and I kind of looked at the landscape in front of me, and I was like, wow, okay, this is not about me. I am here for one reason, and that is to serve the people in this organization and help them grow and succeed. And it's through their growth and success that this business will be successful. What I would do is I would walk around the plant on second and third shift. I would get a big caffeinated beverage. Like, that was the time that the big dog energy drinks were coming out, like Monster and all that stuff. And I would get one of those and perk myself up, and I would go out on the second and third shifts, which was an intentional approach to let people know that they mattered. What I discovered early on was like, hey, my role, the power of my role as chief executive has impact on people, right? So I was like, I want to give that to them so that they feel cared for by the chief executive of the company, right? Like he cares enough to come in on second and third shift and have conversations about, tell me about your kids. What are you doing in your free time? Like, because for a lot of these workers, this was a second gig for them, working second or third shift, and so they could tell me all about their lives, their families, like their hopes and dreams. And I just loved it. It was so fulfilling.
So with that beverage company, as you're making that journey, and you don't have to go into the details, but how does that end? Good terms, bad terms?
Good turnaround. Yeah. So after about 2 years, we found and a lot of searching, we found a chief executive named David Moeller, who is just an all-world human being. I mean, he and I connected on every level. I was like, look, I don't have the engineering background that this company needs to go to the next level. I don't have 25 years of beverage production experience, and manufacturing was not a industry that I knew well. I knew finance. I was able to right size the financial aspects of the business, which made a lot of progress, but I couldn't take it to the next level. And I knew that about myself. And when we found David, it was a game changer. I just can't say enough good things about him. He's an extraordinary leader and was the right guy. And I stepped aside because that was in the best interest of the business. And I went back to doing what I was doing before.
So all of this, comes along to where, you literally just played in this entrepreneurial realm for so long. What I'd like to ask is what is one of the lessons you had to learn the hard way?
Oh yeah. That, planning is awesome, and you have to have a plan.
Yeah.
Because if you don't have a plan, you're wandering through the woods with no direction and no objective or whatever. There's a great Mark Twain quote. It's not what you don't know that gets you in trouble. It's what you think you know that just ain't so.
Yeah.
And, so, what I've encountered in multiple occasions is a certain belief set about what a customer wants or what a customer needs. And you see this in the restaurant business all the time, especially when you've had some success in like one location and you're afraid to change anything because you're like, I only know what the customer's behavior has told me so far about their consumption of the product and service. Yeah. It can be very surprising when you make a small change, what impact it has on customer behavior. Everything from operational execution to customer behavior.
Do you have an example?
Yeah. So one of the examples is with a taco concept that I worked with really closely recently, and having to do with menu breadth. So they had a lot of success with a very large menu and a very large offering. And that created a lot of operational complexity, and the culinary was really high caliber. I mean, it was just great concept. And they had a lot of success with this menu breadth, but it was impacting the bottom line because it was difficult to execute. And you had a lot of like menu items that were not big sellers. They were, we sell a few of them here and there, but when you've trained your brain and your organization to do one thing again and again and again, it's really hard to break out of that model. And it wasn't until they iterated a little bit, made some changes, they discovered what really mattered to the customer about the offering. And it wasn't necessarily the menu breadth. It was it was the culinary excellence of the execution and the concepts, which gave them a whole new realm of flexibility to build more cost effectively and make more money. So, that's just one example. I mean, lots of times where I've seen it the most is in beliefs about what the customer wants without actually validating those beliefs and getting inside and looking at it from the customer's perspective, collecting the data, asking the customer. Like, I'll tell you, I have lots of conversations with entrepreneurs and small business people, and they're like, I've got this problem. I don't know this. And I'm like, I ask the same dumb question every time. Well, have you asked the customer? And they're like, what do you mean? And I'm like, well, we have all of these ways now to engage with our customer base through technology, through, through even old school customer intercepts, questionnaires, stuff like that, email blasts. Have you done that? Well, no, I don't want to impose on the customer. I'm putting myself out there. I'm the one who's supposed to have the idea, right?
Yeah.
And it's like, no, you relieve yourself of that burden. Just ask questions, like it's a totally different model for thinking about it, but it's how you learn. It's how you get product or service market fit ultimately.
So as we're coming to a close, and you've had this great breadth of experience along the way, Nate Edgerly gave me this insight along the way. What is the aha moment, the nugget of information or knowledge, or the lesson learned along the way that you would want to be known or you would want to share with the world?
My advice, the thing that I learned is, assume the best about people and create opportunities for them to be their better selves. And they will surprise you with what they're capable of and what they do with that opportunity. And so many of us are trained in classical business to worry about things like agency risk and how can I be confident that this person is going to represent and do their job. I got to incentivize them. I got to have punitive mechanisms and stuff like that. And all that stuff matters, right? But just from a fundamental belief set, reconcile yourself with the idea that you are going to support people's better natures and that they will become the people that they can be, and build your business around that energy. That energy is the energy to build your business around, in my humble opinion.
Is there any website we could go to for tour dates for the Shotgun Preachers reunion?
I wish. I often talk to the guys and I'm like, should we do some kind of reunion thing? We don't think anybody would show up, but yeah, I wish there were. All right.
Well, you know what? The world is hearing it first that if there is demand, make it heard so we can make it happen. Thanks for watching. To watch more episodes of Influencing Entrepreneurs, be sure to subscribe on YouTube at Nexagy Education.